Yeah, so we brought, so is Alaleh mic'd? Yeah. So we brought in an attorney, Alaleh Kamran,
Explain everything.
to help us explain. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi,
thank
pleasure.
you for joining us. Hi, how are you, Nina?
Melanie.
Hi, Mel. Lovely
Nice to meet you.
So I guess the broad question, we'll just jump right in, is why would a state's attorney choose not to pursue a case like this?
You know, there's a lot of reasons. First of all, it could very well be that they didn't have enough evidence to prosecute the case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
They would have had egg on their faces. It could also be that when they went through the investigation, and it turned out that their victims were truly not believable. So it's not that there was something there, but it's like they were not believable. So that could be something else. It could also be that in the prosecution's mind, there were mitigation factors and there were reasons not to prosecute this case for whatever reason. We don't know, because I don't think there's a statement out just as of yet,
Not yet.
as to why they decided to drop the charges.
So I want to read to you Rahm Emanuel, the mayor for Chicago, gave a statement like minutes before.
Sounds upset.
Very, very annoyed. He calls it a whitewashing of justice. He compares this to the college admission scandal, i.e. that privilege and power, there are different rules for people who have privilege and power. What he says, though, he says, at the end of the day, it's Mr. Smollett that committed this false claim upon two individuals and who also testified, but also on the city. He says that there needs to be a level of accountability. How unusual is it for this to happen, for there to be a case dropped like this by the state attorneys, but there also to be, so the state attorney's office have said, look, he'll still pay, like we're still going to take his bond money, his bail money, and he's done some community service, but it's not a plea deal.
Well, it could be a pre-plea diversion. It could be an informal diversion. In other words, they came to some sort of an agreement prior to any formal prosecution. But how does the mayor know the facts? How does the mayor know exactly what happened? Everybody knows what the statements were. We know what the victims,
everybody on each side
said.
Yeah.
Right.
Ultimately, the decision whether or not a certain individual is guilty or not is a decision that is made by a jury. The prosecution in this case felt that they didn't even have enough to go forward. They indicted him on 16 charges, no less 16. Yeah. It's not like there was two.
Right.
16 charges. Yeah. To drop all these charges, there must be something that we don't just know yet.
Yes.
But for the mayor to take a stance such as this and to say that this is privilege speaking, I don't think a black gay man has a lot of privilege in America. Sorry.
I think, though, I agree with you. I think he's referring to his fame.
Well, we have a lot of famous people who've been prosecuted nonetheless, and their fame did not stop a prosecutorial office from pressing charges. So I don't know that I agree with that.
Is the state's attorney, are they beholden to give an explanation to Rahm or to anyone as to why
they don't have to, do they?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, in order for them to be able to work cohesively together, there needs to be some form of communication. But does a prosecutor have a duty to explain his prosecutorial decisions and his discretion to anybody? I don't think so.
Another thing that's happened as well is that they've said that the court papers are sealed.
Yes.
Is that unusual?
Not necessarily. In California, as a matter of fact, we now have a brand new statute that allows you to seal your fingerprints after the charges are dismissed against you.
Right.
So, and usually in criminal cases, when a complaint or an indictment is filed, the police reports behind it are usually a matter of private record. They're not public record, unless they're obtained through the Freedom of Information Act.
So it seems to me that there's definitely some type of divide between the mayor and the police and the attorney's office. Typically, it seems that these groups work together, but in this, we see a huge split. I don't know if this is unusual, but it seems there's some type of caveat of information that was either left out or something happened, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that seems to have swayed the attorney. People think it's Jussie's celebrity, but it seems like there's some type of evidence or something that happened that could have made it difficult or embarrassing for them.
It could also be that they're playing good cop, bad cop. It could also be that everybody's on board with this disposition, but that somebody had to raise a red flag and say, oh, we're pissed off just for the public opinion, for the court of public opinion, to assuage some of the same comments that have been made.
I want to get your professional opinion on the Osundairo brothers, their statement this morning. They've been at the core of this investigation, right? They're the brothers who are accused of having beaten him up. Their lawyer released a statement to us saying, we are still reviewing all legal stuff.
Legal stuff?
That was the direct
That was the stuff. So, I mean, it did seem like this attorney went on Good Morning America a couple weeks ago, talked to George Stephanopoulos, and it seemed like she didn't have a lot of answers. It kind of seemed like, you know, initially the Chicago PD came out and said that Jussie paid them for this attack.
Right.
Here's the money, $3,500.
Here's the check that
There's
he
a check.
signed.
It went up online. In that conversation with George Stephanopoulos, she said, well, he paid them for training and nutrition.
Right.
And sort of it seemed like the case was starting to fall apart. I mean, could it be that the PD went for, like, constructed this narrative based on something the brothers said, and then the brothers were like, whoa, actually, no, you guys have taken this too far. Is there a potential that, you know, that their story fell apart?
There is, because if you can explain a certain set of facts in two separate ways, and one of them leads to innocence and the other one to guilt, the jury must consider the path that leads to innocence.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they may have thought that they don't have enough to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. But as far as their attorney looking at legal stuff, I'm sure they're probably looking at some sort of a civil recovery, because the burden of proof on a civil recovery is 51%.
I'm thinking this through as we're talking to you, and like, just because there's so much that's happened this morning. You know, Jessie's attorney, when she gave the press conference this morning, said that the brothers are the ones that did the attack.
Right.
And he obviously filed Rahm Emanuel has just said that he filed a false hate crime report. This could be an attack that wasn't a hate crime. This could be an incident that happened that was a personal argument.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like,
yes.
The incident could have happened just in different circumstances to what we initially were told.
Assuming that's the case, even if there was an attack, assume there was an attack and there was no hate crime, it would still be a crime, correct?
Yes.
So the charges can always be amended depending on proof. So in this case, assuming they went to trial or assuming the evidence came through at some kind of a hearing, there was an evidentiary hearing, let's say, and let's say the hate crime allegations were to fall by the wayside and we still had an attack, you still have the crime. So charges can be amended, added, dropped, whatever. But to suddenly have within 2 weeks of indictment, the man was indicted 2 weeks ago. He made his arraignment 2 weeks ago. And within 2 weeks of indictment, to have all 16 charges dropped, something must have gone seriously wrong in that prosecutorial office or in that police department investigation. Why would they file charges and then drop it so quickly? If they were going to do mitigation and pre-plea diversion, they would have done it prior.
If you were Jussie's attorney, what would you recommend he do? Does he have any recourse against
I would recommend he go grab a drink right now and celebrate. I
mean, his reputation has been
destroyed.
Destroyed. And even in our YouTube comment section, we're seeing that people still don't believe him.
Right.
People still don't believe Jussie, even though the case has been dropped. And I don't even know if we'll ever find out truly what actually happened because these records have been sealed. But people have made their minds up about him.
Let's understand something. Just because charges are dropped doesn't mean that somebody has been fully exonerated. Even though the attorneys are saying he has been fully exonerated, that's incorrect. Because in order to be fully exonerated, you need to have a factual finding of innocence granted by the court. In other words, that's a whole other petition, that's a whole other hearing. Right. There's a mini trial on the facts, and the judge must issue a finding that this person is in fact innocent, not that the state could not prove the charges. If, in fact, he can get a factual finding of innocence. Then his avenues are opened up to filing of civil lawsuits against the accusers or against whoever he has a legal right to sue. I'm not so sure that you can sue the police department.
Well, that's
think you will.
Is there anything the police department, if they do believe him to be guilty of something, which according to Rahm Emanuel they do, is there anything else they can do past this?
You know, as long as the statute of limitation hasn't expired and there's charges that they can file, assuming it's not barred by, double jeopardy, he can always be charged. Right. But given what we're hearing from the prosecutor's office, it looks like these were dismissed. There's no further investigation. There's no pending investigation. They're not looking into this anymore. They're done. Basically, they are done with this case. Now, what happens between Jess and his attorneys and his career, those are collateral consequences of being caught up.
Jessie's attorneys this morning said that they feel like this is a learning moment really for the public, and I'm paraphrasing, as far as like the court of public opinion versus the judicial system. You know, and Nina and I have spoken about this already on air this morning, just the idea that Jessie went on GMA, which felt like it was too soon at the time anyway. The police then did exactly the same thing, of course, like presented to us the evidence that they had very, very early on. The brother's attorney also went on GMA. GMA did very well in this story. How much do you think that did affect how we as the public viewed this case?
I think it depends on where you are in America, which state you're in, basically, and how much you believe what you see on TV. I think the court of public opinion is very much swayed by your educational and educational background and financial background. I think the more education you have, the more skeptical you can become, and the more critical you can become of what you're seeing on TV.
So despite the charges being dropped, the FBI are reportedly still investigating the letter.
Yes.
I mean, is that
was sent to the Empire Set 6 days before the attack.
I mean, is that a crucial piece of this puzzle that would need to get figured out before? I mean, granted, those are, I guess, different investigations, but...
One is federal.
Yeah.
One is state. And the federal, depending on what truly was the content of the letter. I don't know that we've seen the contents of the letter. Have we? Was the letter published?
It was a picture.
In its entirety?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then, depending on whether they're looking at whether it was a threat or whatever it was.
And potentially terrorist as well, you know, because there was white powder inside of it, which I think they deemed it to be aspirin or something. But, you know, the police superintendent had said that they had already said that they felt that Jessie had sent the letter and the FBI had concluded that, but the FBI had not concluded that at all. So definitely there was a point with that where the Chicago PD got ahead of themselves as far as presenting what they believed was evidence to the public on that.
I mean, in your opinion, does this story last another 24 hours, or is there a next step that we should be looking forward to? And I don't mean forward like gleefully, I mean forward as in, you know, in the future. Well,
with respect to whether or not this case has any more criminal repercussions or in the criminal world, I think we've seen the end of it. With respect to what happens from here on, whether there's any civil lawsuits, any civil prosecution, whether anyone's going to sue anyone for defamation and libel and slander, I think now we're going to see the floodgates open.
Interesting. Anybody want to...
I'm just very interested. We, again, have talked about this already, Nina. I'm so sorry to repeat myself, but just whether Jussie will speak, whether he'll do a big interview now. The same with the brothers. Like, what's going to happen now? Because I still have so many questions. I have so many questions as far as whether an attack took place, and if so, why an attack took place. Because according to the police, they'd followed 55 different security cameras to ascertain that it was these two brothers. You know, they'd followed them, they'd got in a taxi, they'd then followed, like, got a dash cam from the taxi, you know. So it's just, I'm still so fascinated that I still have so many questions about what really happened.
And I think we are going to get those answers in time when some writer, reporter, author is going to dig up whatever they can by way of the Freedom of Information Act and do interviews with witnesses or with people that were involved or had knowledge and the statute of limitation has passed. So there will be no repercussions or no fear of litigation. We'll know then.
Given what we've talked about, the sort of the influence of the court of public opinion, would you recommend that Jussie's lawyer, the Osundiro brothers' lawyer, or the brothers themselves, or Eddie Johnson, the superintendent, do you recommend anybody getting on, like, the interview trail and doing a bunch of interviews about this, given how we've seen some of these go so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be a good move for Jussie to do an interview right now. I think the case speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. His lawyer has made a statement. He made a small statement outside of the court. I think if I was Jussie, I would be worried about my career. I would be worried about my reputation and everything outside of an interview. Mm-hmm. Being seen in the community, being seen with my co-stars who have stood by me. I think that would speak more volumes than him doing another interview where he's sitting down. And I don't think it would behoove the brothers at this point either. I mean, they're still looking at who wrote this letter. Yeah. It sounds like there was shady behavior on really every side that could potentially be. There's photos of them in a store. If everybody was smart, I think they would lay low, let their lawyers handle it. The brothers might want to get a new lawyer because the statement that she released was very questionable. I wouldn't be confident in my lawyer releasing a statement like that.
Like,
I mean,
what?
Legal stuff.
Legal stuff.
Legal
You're
stuff.
looking at all the legal stuff.
I mean, you watch SVU, you could write a better statement than that.
Yeah.
So, I think right now everybody who's involved, I mean, we can't talk about what lawyers, what people will report on. But if I was involved, I would be quiet.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really heard much from Jussie's co-stars. The writer's room for the Empire basically released a photo. They tweeted a photo of him giving the press conference today saying, we'll see you guys on Wednesday. So obviously everybody on set is probably very relieved.
They wanted to go
which is really sad, because if something is taking place in someone's life, let's say in this case, there's a pending criminal case. Indictments are just charges. It's not findings of facts. Such a huge consequence of being written out of a story, it is huge. And a lot of people, a lot of actors, a lot of people in show business are destroyed. Their careers are destroyed because somebody levels charges that are later found out to be untrue.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there needs to be a little bit more of a scrutiny before we write our actors or actresses out of their roles so superficially over nothing.
Alaleh, thank you so much for coming in and doing this with us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to say just really quick for the record, several people in our comment section have referred to your shoes and that they love them.
Oh, thank you.
Game fire. Lawyers got on hot shoes, so whatever else happens today, you can take that with you.
God, I don't even know what they are.
That's all right. It's all good, man.
I would yell at the designer, but I can't remember. Sorry, senility is kicking in.
Thank you so much. The guys over here are going to help you get demiked, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Come back anytime.
Well, invite me.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
We'll have so much more on Jussie and everything that's happening tonight on E! News at 7 o'clock.